Catch the Nurture Series podcast on Spotify and iTunes today. Nurture this. Hey, welcome to the Nurture Series. Catch this week, we are having a conversation with holistic nutritionist Stefanie Adler, and we talk about everything under the sun when it comes to women's health, women's hormonal imbalances, and how to get them back into balance using nutrition as a tool. I'm Chava Florin. You can catch me on chavaflorin.com, and all of my podcasts are on Spotify or iTunes today. I can't wait to dive right in. Check it out. Welcome to the Nurture Series, Stefanie. I'm so happy to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks, Chava.
This is so exciting to me because the topic is how to trust your gut, but we're actually talking about nutrition. You're a nutritionist, correct?
I am. Yeah, I'm a holistic nutritionist by training.
So tell me a little bit about your story and what led you to become a nutritionist before we get into all the good stuff of what to eat and to avoid.
Totally. Yeah. So when I was a kid, like my mom says, even from the time I was a baby, as long as they can remember, I just always had a miserable, upset stomach, kind of like we were talking about before we hopped on here. And I was in and out of doctor's offices for years, for like the first 10 to 13 years of my life. And they kind of couldn't come up with anything except for, you have IBS. Here, take this medication. It wouldn't help, or it would help for a little bit and then stop working, or the side effects would be worse than my original symptoms. So around the time of my bat mitzvah, actually, we heard through a friend of a friend that someone was allergic to this thing called gluten, and it like totally changed their lives when they went off of it. And my doctors were like, well, you don't have celiac disease. We tested you for that. So that's not going to help you. And I was just so desperate. I remember to like be able to go to a bat mitzvah party without like having to call my mom and tell her to come pick me up. And so I was like, I'll try anything. And within 3 months of switching my diet, all the symptoms I'd been having for 13 years pretty much went away. And so I was just like super aware of the relationship between food as a catalyst for dis-ease or for health and well-being in the body from a young age, and decided to explore it as a career.
I saw this fantastic post on Instagram from this gynecologist who says every single thing you put in your mouth is either causing disease or curing your disease.
Exactly.
We are so, as Americans, programmed not to think of food as medicine, but as comfort experiences, eating for pleasure or eating on the go, not being mindful of what we're eating. And I've been really curious about intuitive eating.
Yeah. So intuitive eating, I like the idea of it, and I think it's really helpful for a lot of people on their healing journey. And I have some qualms with it. So I have a program called the Well Woman Collective. That's a 12-week program that walks women through what you need in order to be like a healthy woman in the modern world. And our last module is about, finding your food freedom. And like we talk about intuitive eating, and I kind of teach a modified version of intuitive eating, because I believe that for us to truly eat intuitively, we have to get reconnected with like what our body actually wants and needs and what feels good, right? Like we have to find that baseline of like, I feel really healthy. And then from that place, I can eat intuitively. Whereas unfortunately, what I see a lot in the intuitive eating space is just like, eat whatever you want. And then like, trust that your body is going to tell you to eat what you need. But if we're not coming from a place of health and well-being, then it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think for intuitive eating to work, you have to have mindfulness attached to the experience. So for me, when I think about intuitive eating, it's more like I wake up in the morning and what do I feel like my body needs? Do I need protein? Do I need vegetable? Do I need carbohydrate? Like, did I just work out? Do I need more energy, less energy? Those kinds of ways of thinking about food. I think I probably have done every single diet on the gamut, like every single one. I'm one of those people. I have this one friend, Jordana, who's a health coach, and she says to me, okay, so what are you doing this week? Like, people know this about me. I'm constantly trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. I was always a very thin person. And then I had the shift, as all women do, around, I would say 38, where my body was just like, nope, not gonna lose that weight. So I'm curious, let's talk about your diet approach and and when I say diet, I don't like using that word. When I mean by the word diet, I mean nutrition. And again, for me, I've now come to the terms of thinking about food as fuel and as our medicine versus thinking about food as just what we can do to comfort ourselves, especially during the quarantine. I think we all went through that phase in the beginning, and maybe some of us are still going through that phase of like, I am having the worst day. This is really crappy way of living. If there's one thing that's going to bring me joy, it's going to be a burger and fries. I'm going to do it. You know, I'm not saying I don't do that. Like I do, but I'm just saying, I think there should be a rule of like 80-20, but I still want to know what as a professional, what is the number one mistake that women make when it comes to their diet that we have to be more mindful of?
Yeah. Ooh, I love that question. So the number one mistake that I see women making is following any diet or like food lifestyle without, one, learning more about their individual body, and two, without paying attention to where they are in their cycle. And because so much of like the diet and lifestyle research that has been done only looking at the male 24-hour hormone cycle. So males feel the same way hormonally every single day. And like most women, when we even hear that, it's just so foreign to us. We're like, what? Like, how is it even possible? And our hormones affect so much about our metabolism, about the way our gut interacts with our food, everything. And so if you were just trying to like intermittent fast, for example, right? Like we all hear intermittent fasting is like super good for you. It's going to help you lose weight, help balance blood sugar, all the things. And then women just go and try and do it, but they don't take into account where they are in their cycle. Whereas like the first half of your cycle from, once you stop bleeding until you ovulate is like an awesome time to intermittent fast. Your body, like your metabolism is slower, so you don't need as many calories to keep you fueled, and you're not going to feel as hungry. Whereas the second half of your cycle, progesterone kicks your metabolism up, and just by sitting and doing nothing, you're burning an average of like 90 to 280 calories more a day. So you need more fuel. And so like
because women are ovulating during that period of time.
Well, they've already ovulated. So like ovulation's a 24-hour event. And then after ovulation occurs, you have the rest of your cycle in which your metabolism is higher. Thinking about it like you're incubating, like your body doesn't know if there's going to be a baby or not. And so it warms up. That's like
interesting. That's very interesting. I've never heard this before.
Yeah. And so intermittent fasting is going to be much more challenging because you're going to wake up feeling hungrier because like you burned more calories while you were sleeping, and you're not going to want to wait until noon to eat. Whereas 2 weeks prior, you wouldn't have even thought about it maybe.
So it's all about really becoming more in tune with your body and the engine that is burning all the time. Again, kind of going back to that intuitive way of thinking, right?
Yes. And when we compare that, where if you are in a cycling body, right? And so like if you are menstruating, knowing, okay, when I am on my bleed, doing a more keto style diet is actually going to serve me better because my body doesn't need as many carbohydrates. I don't need to be like eating certain vegetables that are going to help me detox excess estrogen. And I need more meat. I need to refuel and like remineralize, and the iron in red meat and like seafood, all of that is going to give it to me. And then knowing like, okay, switching into my follicular phase, I can do more of an intermittent fasting kind of thing. And around ovulation, you can do more of a raw vegan if you like that. You don't have to, but that is like the one time of the month that you can do better with more raw veggies. You don't need as much protein, etc. And then the second half of your cycle in that luteal phase, knowing you are burning more calories, you need a little bit more food, and you need more complex carbohydrates to keep your serotonin happy. So like you can kind of biohack in a way where like based around where you're at in your cycle, and by feeling into that through your body, because once you start to get in that rhythm, it'll just feel good. Like, oh, I have more energy after my bleed if I eat more of this kind of way versus trying to eat like a raw vegan when you're on your period.
So interesting. What's your feeling around veganism?
I'm not a fan. I see so many women come to me in my practice who have either been vegetarian or vegan for several years. And the thing is like sometimes you'll feel really good for the first year, for 6 months or a year, and then the problems start accumulating later on when you have a lot of nutrient deficiencies. It's really hard to be a healthy vegan. It's possible, but it's really hard.
What's your feeling around the blood type diet? Is there any scientific indication that different women's blood type will indicate what kind of diet is the most efficient for them?
I feel a little bit torn on it. Like, yes and no. Like, based on what your blood type is, you might need more red meat than someone else. You know, there is some of that, but I feel hesitant. I actually have a client right now who I'm working with on healing some IBD and like some serious gut stuff. And she's like getting really into the blood type diet. And I just want to be like, please stop. That is like not as helpful as what everything else we're doing. And so I really think that it's not the best approach. Yes, some of it is rooted in truth, but I don't think that it's like the end all be all we should be paying attention to.
And so you're really a big fan of paying attention to our hormonal cycles in terms of how we approach food. I wonder, is there a difference between being in your 20s when you're a little bit more regular versus a woman who might have just had a baby? How does that change their hormone nutritional cycles? And what about women in their 30s having babies a little older? Can you speak to some of those stages of life for women and how they can tackle weight loss?
I'll break it up into a couple different parts, but so yes, absolutely, there are different needs based on where you're at, you know, in your life cycle, whether that's postpartum, preconception, whatever it is, your body does want different things nutritionally. Like if you are in your 20s and have a really regular cycle and are just trying to optimize for future fertility, you're going to eat a little bit differently than a woman who is, you know, in her late 30s or 40s and potentially going into, you know, early menopause or premenopause, etc. But the one thing that does remain common is that your food is your medicine, right? And so there is something you can always be doing on a nutritional level to support where you're at being less symptomatic. So if that's postpartum, you know, there's so much that you can be doing to optimize your metabolism and help your body fuel whatever it is so that you can lose weight. Something we have to think about with weight loss is this idea of homeostasis. Okay. So homeostasis in the body is when everything is in balance. When you have all your nutrients, you know, there's no nutrient deficiencies, when your hormones are balanced, when all of these things, your stress, your cortisol, your melatonin cycles, all of that is in balance, the body feels like, okay, I feel safe. I don't have to hold on to this excess weight feeling like there might be a famine, right? It's fight or flight famine is the other F there. And so whenever the body is in a state of something is an imbalance, it's going to be really hard to lose weight, no matter what of those stages you're in.
Because of the quarantine, the uncertainty, the civil unrest, the freaking global pandemic, are you noticing that women are having a harder time losing weight because their homeostasis is off?
I think in the beginning of the pandemic specifically, I was seeing a lot of really irregular cycles, a lot of stress eating, a lot of just stress behavior in general, which was, I think, causing a lot of weight gain and holding on to weight. And I think since the summer, since like probably June, at least with my clients, I've seen them actually really lean into the parts of the quarantine and pandemic that they can, right? Like most people are working from home and have more time and they can go work out in the way they want to. And there's
We're
just,
not in fight or flight mode now. We're a little beyond that.
yeah.
We're a little past it. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you more pointed questions around the different stages that women go through. Let's talk about what would be the ideal nutritional mistakes that women make right after they have a baby. They're still nursing. They're trying to lose that extra 25 or 35 pounds. The weight's not budging. I get this question a lot from different women that I talk to. How do I lose that last 35 pounds? What is the best advice you could give those women?
Yeah, that's tough. I'm also a birth doula and like have spent a lot of time learning about women's bodies in postpartum, and the true part of me wants to tell them to not try and lose it too fast. And like when you're trying too early after losing a baby, it's not going to happen because your body still needs all of that extra padding to feel like it can give the baby the nutrients it needs. So that's oftentimes part of it. But I think it's really just about staying consistent, you know, focusing on whole foods that really nourish you. So meat, vegetables, a half a cup, or actually while you're nursing, you need more carbohydrates, but like let's say 1 cup of starchy carbs, you know, twice a day max, and really focusing on like giving your body all of the nutrients it needs because it lost so much during birth. The entire time you were pregnant, it was giving everything to the baby, and it still is. And unless you're fully taken care of, then the weight isn't going to come off. So really,
Any vitamins that you recommend during that time that are specific for that period of time in a woman's life?
I mean, to continue taking a prenatal is always something I recommend. So like taking that the entire time you're nursing. Um, and beyond that, I don't usually feel comfortable with supplement recommendations like that because it's so dependent on, every woman's
Specific.
body.
Yeah, specific stories. What about a woman trying to get pregnant, struggling with infertility? What's a good way to support her system food wise? Is the answer always going to be whole foods, meats, vegetables? Any tricks that women can do to help boost their fertility
Yeah,
food wise?
I actually just released an entire online course it's called Fertility Freedom Academy, about exactly that, like how to optimize your fertility through food and supplements and all of those things. So yes, I can definitely give you some of those. And it's not always just like eating whole foods, though it's always rooted in that. But specifically around fertility, I often invite women to go to more traditional foods and like look back at what ancient cultures have been doing for thousands and thousands of years that is so different from our modern society. Fertility foods are liver, for example, like liver, other organ meats, and offal. Salmon roe is a big one, and really focusing on like really high quality. So like, if you're eating dairy, make sure it's raw, organic. If you're eating eggs, make sure they're pasture raised, focusing on the egg yolks, things like that. Really focusing on antioxidant rich foods. So like very deeply pigmented foods, and also specifically around the fertility, it's often like what we're also staying away from. So like really, I like to tell women, like, act like you're already pregnant. Like, if you're drinking several times a week or drinking really at all,
Not going to help.
not going to help. And so things like that, those are the best ways for that.
Okay, we're moving up the ladder here, which is closer to my world. and but I have a lot of listeners who are, either premenopausal, postmenopausal. I'm not menopausal, but I'm past my years of baby years. As I've gotten older, it is definitely more difficult to lose weight. And my body likes holding on a little harder to some of these extra calories. What are some nutritional hacks you can give women, I would say 38 and over?
Make sure you're eating enough fat is the biggest one. I think so often there's a fear around like, if I eat fat, it's going to make me fat, and fat has more calories per gram. And really, there's an awesome book actually called Eat Fat, Get Thin that like can help you release some of that fear around that. But yeah, making sure that you're getting enough healthy fat. So that's coming from avocados, seeds like hemp seeds or sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, whatever, olives, a mix of saturated and unsaturated fats. So like not being so afraid, like eat some coconut oil, have some coconut milk, have some red meat, everything like that. I oftentimes see that women in that age group will be trying to stay away from fat when really it's exactly what they need. So that's one of them.
If you're heightening your fat, does that mean you're lowering your carbohydrate?
It was almost like we're having two conversations here, like one, the intuitive eating, and then one, like a macro, balancing. I don't typically like to explain nutrition in a macro balancing because I don't think it really works that well for most women. Again,
really?
Yeah, I think what it usually does is creates like relatively restrictive eating without taking into account like the quality and the nutrients and everything. And it creates like nutrient deficiencies and things like that. And so I don't love that framework, but if we are thinking about it, fat keeps you fuller for longer and like is more satiating than any other of the food groups. So like if you were eating more fat, you're naturally just going to be eating less of other things. And like, you probably don't have to plan it out in such a structured way where it's like, if I put this much avocado on my plate, then I can only put this many carrots, right? Whereas you're just naturally going to feel more full from eating more of the fat, and it'll all balance out on its own. And then the other tip I could give for women in that age group is really focusing on blood sugar balance and like really optimizing your blood sugar, because that is one of the keyest, the most key things as you move into the next phase of your life and being able to balance and maintain your weight in a way that you want. And so one of my best rules for that is no naked carbs. Okay. And so a carb is naked unless it has a fat with it. And so, for example, if you're eating an apple for a snack, an apple is a carbohydrate. I want you to put some almond butter on it. Anytime you eat anything that's just a plain carbohydrate, so think fruits, any sort of grains, any sort of rice cake, whatever, it's spiking your blood sugar. Every time we eat, your blood sugar is being spiked a little bit, but carbohydrates are translated to glucose much quicker in the body. And so there's a blood sugar spike. And whenever that happens, you're producing and releasing insulin. And that is really going to prevent you from being able to lose weight. And so what we can do is when we pair our carbs with fat, we're kind of muting that spike. And so it makes it less dramatic and the body doesn't react to it in the same way.
Whoa, you're blowing my mind right now. It's like everything that we've ever heard about is completely washing out the window. And I'm excited about this conversation because I never really, I've always thought like, okay, it should be low carbs, high fat, or high protein, low fat. There's just so many different ways of looking at how we pair food. So is there a difference in how we pair it throughout different periods of time throughout the day? Does that make a difference when we pair our foods?
Yeah, I mean, I would think about it like it's less about the pairing. Like you always, like the no naked carbs rule applies always. Like I don't care if it's midnight or if it's 7 a.m., like you still shouldn't. But if you're going to be eating more carbohydrate, it's better to be doing it earlier in the day so that your body has time to burn it. Like the body wants to use any sort of carb as fuel immediately. Like it needs and wants to burn it off. So if you eat like a very refined carb heavy dinner and then you just like relax all evening, your body isn't able to like burn that off as fuel and is going to store it in a way that you don't love.
Could you give us sort of like just a roadmap of what a perfect breakfast, lunch, and dinner would look like? And are you a fan of snacking or not?
I'll get back to the snacking question in a second, but should we like pick an age group for this?
Yeah, let's pick an age group. Let's pick a 35-year-old woman. She's still cycling.
Okay.
And she's not looking to get pregnant. In fact, she really doesn't want to get pregnant because she already had her children. Or she just doesn't have children yet, but she's not ready to be fertile enough to get pregnant, but she's 35. It's a nice mid-range. And she, might have gained a little bit of weight during quarantine. What do we tell her? What does she eat?
Yeah, so I'm just going to pick her follicular phase, right? So after she stops bleeding, before she ovulates, whether or not you want to get pregnant or not, we all want to have balanced hormones and happy hormones because they make us, we want to feel confident. We want to feel good. We don't want to be anxious. We want to sleep well. And all of that relates to our hormone health. So let's just say that she's in her follicular phase. If she's trying to lose a little bit of weight, she can optimize working out by working out like mid-morning on an empty stomach. Maybe she had like, a cup of water or something, but if she's trying to do that intermittent fasting, which would feel good during that time, she could work out, like around 9 a.m. on an empty stomach, come home, shower right away to wash off all of her toxins that her body's trying to get out so that she can lose weight. And then she could have like 2 eggs, some kale, like sauteed kale, and a half an avocado with a little side of sauerkraut for breakfast.
So getting that prebiotic in.
Getting the probiotic, yeah.
Probiotic.
Healthy fats, pasture-raised eggs have all of those amazing nutrients, and leafy greens. I highly recommend several servings of leafy greens. And also all of that kale has something called DIM in it, which helps us detox excess estrogen, which almost everyone has too much estrogen these days. So especially around that age, at that life stage, etc. That's like a brunch, let's say.
Yeah, like around 10:30, 11 after her workout, her first meal of the day.
So then she could probably have a snack, unless, if you're intermittent fasting, you don't need to have 3 full meals a day. And so maybe for a snack, she would have a seasonal piece of fruit. Like right now, an apple would be a really great example with some nut butter, like some almond butter on the side. And if she's feeling like she needs it after her workout, maybe some like seed crackers with some almond butter too. Make like a nice little plate. I always recommend that snacks, if you are having a snack, looks like a mini meal. Oftentimes my best recommendation for clients for snacks is take whatever leftovers are in the fridge and make yourself like a third of a portion. And that's a really awesome snack because then it's a complete snack and not imbalanced in area or the other. Maybe she would make herself like a golden milk latte or something in the, late afternoon, with like some healthy fats in there, some collagen for her gut and her hair and her skin and her nails and all of those things. And then around dinner time, she could make like a cauliflower rice stir fry with some like chicken or beef, whatever it is, a bunch of different veggies, and call it a day.
Beautiful. That's really cool. This is so informative. I feel like I've learned so much from you. I actually am thinking I want to have a session with you because there's so much that I feel like I'm just not getting right. But if people want to reach out to you and they want to have a session with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so find me on Instagram, Stefanie with an F, Stefanie Adler Wellness. And just send me a message over there is usually the easiest way to reach me. You could also email me at Stefanie@brightbeanhealth.com. Maybe we can write that somewhere in the show notes so people can find out about that. I do blueprint sessions is what they're called for like my one-off sessions. It's a 90-minute session where we dive into everything for 90 minutes. And then you receive a written blueprint with supplement, food, lifestyle, all the recommendations.
Fabulous. This is fantastic. I have one last question I always ask, and I love asking this question. What do you eat for breakfast, Stefanie, every morning?
It really varies, but oftentimes, especially this time of year, I eat like a cup of soup for breakfast. I honestly eat whatever was left over from the day before and just like maybe put a fried egg on top of it, but yeah.
What's the best nurturing technique you have come up with during this quarantine time?
I honestly think it's like maintaining and sticking to my morning practice, and letting my mornings be sacred for me. And whether that's like microneedling one morning or meditating or doing my journal activity, whatever it is, having, that 30-minute time that is totally sacred and gets to only be mine.
I love that. And I've heard a lot of people talk about that on the show. We talk about this a lot, the morning routine. It really does start everything. It's almost like your springboard. And if you don't have it in place, it can sort of make your entire day be a little off. Whereas when you do have it in place, your entire day is so supported. You go to sleep feeling like, wow, I had a really fantastic day, versus going to sleep feeling like I could have done this differently or I could have done that differently. I've definitely implemented some new morning routines into my day because I feel like I really needed it. I was losing that. I was losing that sense of, I guess, like inner peace. And so just implementing some things like thinking of my list of gratitudes that I wanted to be mindful of, having that meditation first thing in the morning. Literally, it's the first thing I do. Sometimes I'm a little too tired to even get out of bed because I'm a late night person. So I just do it while I'm lying there, but it like sets my whole mind for the whole day.
Totally. Yeah. I have clients all the time who I tell everyone, I'm just like, get up 15 minutes earlier. People are like, I don't have time to do this in the morning. And I'm like, you will be a happier and better person.
Yeah.
If you do something for yourself in the morning and like wake up 10 minutes earlier. It's not going to make or break you, but the morning routine will. So I love that you're even doing it in bed is a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the Nurture series. You've given us so much. I literally feel like I could ask you a billion more questions, but I feel like, guys, if you really want to get to know Stefanie, have a session with her, do that one-on-one, because as many questions as I'm going to ask Stefanie, it really is specific to your body, to you, where you are in your cycle, whether you're during, beginning, after, premenopausal, postmenopausal, after you had a baby, before you're trying to have children. We all go through these different cycles throughout our lifetime. So every single person is going to be different. I'm loving this entire conversation. And I thank you so much for being on the Nurture series. Guys, go check out Stefanie Adler on Instagram. Go make an appointment with her. I'm making my appointment right now. I'm very excited.
Sounds amazing, Kava. Thanks, everyone. So
Thank you. Thank you for being here.